Hi everyone, welcome back to another video and to part one of my Into Out series. So I've decided to do this series because I think this is something that 95% of the golfers out there are trying to do more of. And I believe that when players swing over and across the ball, it's probably the biggest reason as to why they're losing distance and they're losing control of their ball flight. Now, the purpose of this series is to give you guys a better understanding of some concepts and things that you can change during your setup position, your backswing, your downswing, follow through, and even in your finish position that can help encourage you to swing it more degrees into out. So to start things off in part one, I'll be talking about the setup and what you can do or adjustments you can make to help encourage a more into out path. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you are visiting my channel for the first time, please subscribe to see more golf related content. Okay, everyone, so I'm going to be mainly going over four things that will definitely have an influence on your swing path and help you to encourage a more into-out swing path. So the first one is going to be ball position. Second is going to be how you're positioning your shoulders and your hips at address. The third is just how much kind of shaft lean that you're going to need. And then the last topic that I'm going to talk about is just how your body alignment at address. Okay, so let me just show you guys from my point of view about ball position first, just because I think that gives people the best understanding. Okay, guys, so here's my point of view over the mat. So I've just set up the grid, okay, and if you guys don't know what this is, I did make a video about this in the past. I can leave a link in the description box, so you can go and check that out. I did use this to explain how ball position does influence swing path a little bit in that video. So afterwards, you guys can check that out. With the grid here set up, I'll just quickly go over what these lines represent, okay, and then just show you how changing the ball position between your stance can encourage or make it more difficult for you to swing it into out. So these top two black lines here, those would represent basically the path of the club going back and on the way through, okay, and these bottom two black lines would represent the path of your hands on the way back and then on the way through. So this middle line here, this orange line, represents the point at which the club head will start to change direction. So for example, if the club was coming in on a slight arc on that into-out path, it's only going to happen up to a certain point, and then if the club's going to swing back on an arc, then the club head will change direction slightly the other way. I always show people that usually is positioned kind of to the inside of your lead heel, okay? And when people put the ball position closer to this point, it actually encourages the path to be more kind of neutral. And then the further back they put it behind this point, it makes it easier for the club to swing on or hit the ball on an into-out path. And then reverse, the more that you put the ball kind of ahead of that point, obviously it'll be more difficult without changing how your body's moving and things like that, or compensating a little bit. The general rule would be is that you want to place the ball approximately 3 balls kind of behind this point. Okay, so assuming that this was kind of the inside of the lead heel, if you did place it 3 balls kind of to the inside or to the right of that point, it would approximately be just to the left of center, okay, in your stance. So that would kind of allow you to be in a position where you can swing the club just a couple degrees into out, which is what you want. And reversely, you just don't ever want your ball position to be ahead of that point here or too far forward, okay? So this is just something that to be aware about that will help you building your swing to be more degrees into out. Okay, so the second topic that I'm going to talk about is how you're positioning basically your shoulders versus your lower body at address, okay, from the face-on view. Now, I would say this is, if not the biggest influence on how well someone can change their swing direction, okay? Now, almost everyone that comes in who slices the golf ball or swings the club too many degrees out to in, they will always have their upper body center, okay, positioned more ahead of their lower body center, or kind of the upper body position more towards the target than their hips, okay? So if your body gets into this position you're already at a big disadvantage, right? It's already going to discourage you from swinging the club in to out, and actually encourage the club to swing more out to in. After you have your ball position in the right place, what you always have to make sure that is happening is that the buttons of your shirt should appear either directly on top or ever so slightly kind of more behind the center of your hip. Okay, so maybe you could reference kind of where the buttons of the shirt are and where your belt buckle is. Okay, you should feel as though that the buttons are just slightly more kind of behind the belt buckle. Okay, now if you're already swinging it out to in, and assuming that your body is positioned kind of more in this manner with the upper body in front, it will feel as though your head is positioned more to the right, while kind of the lead side of your hip is pushed more kind of to the left. Okay, and a lot of people that I make this adjustment for, they feel as though there's at least 60% or a slight majority of their weight kind of on the lead side. Okay, and they feel like they're kind of more like in this position slightly. Okay, now this is obviously like slightly exaggerated, but again, if you were someone that was positioned this way, feeling to probably get you in a better position or closer position is to kind of feel the opposite, right? So hips kind of push more laterally to the left, and the upper body kind of behind more to the right, kind of like this. That's really going to help encourage your body to move a different way. It's going to encourage your body to bend slightly differently, give you more mobility and turn. So that's definitely something to look at if you're watching yourself from the face-on view. Okay, so the third topic has to do with where you're placing the handle at address. And this is more directly correlated to the previous topic of how you're positioning your upper body and your lower body. Okay, so people who tend to swing it the most degrees out and across will have the tendency to bring the handle of the club or position their handle more and more kind of behind the golf ball. All right, and the way it relates to body position is that you'll notice that when I pull the handle or position the handle more behind, the more that you do that, you actually start to drop your lead shoulder, which pushes your upper body kind of more in front or towards the target. Okay, and it'll be actually encourage your hip to actually start to move more away from the target. Okay, so if you do it too much, you'll start to bend your body in this way, and then again, just like I was saying before, with your upper body in front of your lower, it makes it harder for you to turn, makes it harder for your hands to go around you enough. Everything that the way that your body's bent is going to encourage more over and across. So the reverse is true, is the more you press your handle forward, right, it's going to encourage your upper body to kind of get more behind, or your right shoulder to drop, okay, and then your hip to actually move forward. Now, we obviously don't want to do it like too much, right? But the general rule, I'd say, is assuming that you've first got your body in that position, we want to get the handle of the club pointed maybe just to the left or just in front of where your belt buckle is, okay? Having it directly at your belt buckle is fine also, but we just don't want it to be positioned behind the golf ball at all, okay? So just slightly forward is okay. Now, what you have to be careful of is if you lean the shaft forward, some people actually get their bodies kind of like turned over to the left, where they're opening their shoulders a lot. That will also tend to get your upper body center more in front of your hip, kind of like this. Okay, so we have to make sure that when you lean the shaft forward, that it's very, very slight. Okay, everything is up to a certain point. So basically, the further forward you lean the handle, ensuring that your upper body is still behind your lower body, the easier it will be, or encourage more into out path. And then reverse is the further back you point the handle, it gets your body positioned the opposite way, which will encourage more out to in path. All right, now the fourth and final topic that I'll be discussing is body alignment. And I think this one is another very, very important one, and a lot of the time holds a lot of people back when they try to bring what they're learning onto the golf course. If you were on the golf course, where you're aiming this club face, okay, is obviously where you're trying to hit the ball. It's very important or crucial that you're fairly good at positioning your body lines fairly parallel to that line. So that would include your feet, that would include your hips, and then also your shoulders at address. The players that swing the most degrees out and across will almost always have their body lines more open to the target. So for right-handed golfer, that would mean that as you're standing over the ball, your shoulders and your hips are turned more to the left. Okay? And if you were to think about if I did this from the face-on view, the more I position my upper body in front of my hip, the more it actually encourages the shoulders and the hips to open or point more to the left. So the more that your body lines are positioned left, it actually makes it more difficult for you to rotate or open up your body in the backswing just because you're starting from a more open position. And if that happens, it'll actually affect, how deep your hands can get behind your body, all those things. So which will encourage the club to swing more out and across. When you position the body the other way, the upper body behind the lower body, you'll see that the body lines actually move more closed, kind of the other way. So if I just exaggerate it for a second, right, really got my hip in front and my upper body kind of to the right of the ball, you can see my body lines are more closed, okay? Now, when my body lines are more closed, that actually makes it easier for rotation to happen. It actually encourages my hands to go more deeper behind me, okay? All those things will help to encourage a more into-out path. Now, obviously, we don't want to start really closed like this, but we just want to avoid at all costs your shoulders and your hips, or even your feet line, to be positioned more open to your target line or where you're aiming your club face. The body line should be either fairly parallel, even just ever so slightly more closed is also okay. We obviously don't want it really closed or very, very open, okay? Just either neutral or just slightly closed will get you in a position to where you can learn to swing the club on a slight into-out path. So these are the topics that I wanted to share with you guys, just to give you some food for thought. This is why the setup position is so important, is because the way that you position your body at the start is going to have a major influence as to how you maneuver yourself in the backswing, and even in the downswing, okay? So just use these concepts to kind of self-diagnose yourself, just to see where your positions are. Maybe it was your setup the whole time that was preventing you from making certain changes in your swing and getting you to swing it more degrees into out. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. So be sure to follow me on my Instagram at Jonathan K. Moss, where you can inquire about online lessons, and visit my website at www.jkmgolfacademy.com. I will leave a link to that in the description box below, where you can find out all the details. But other than that, I will see you guys next week in part 2.